in the next 30 minutes. Industry players welcome government's decision to suspend taxes and regulatory margins on petroleum products as part of enhanced measures to cushion Ghanaians from the effect of rising fuel prices. Also on the program, Fisheries Commission allays fears of possible contamination of fish within the Tema enclave, following reported mass mortality of fish near the Tema shipyard. Later on the program, search continues for the remaining passengers after a boat carrying 16 people capsized on the Vought Lake. 9 bodies have so far been recovered. And we'll take you as well to the Shanti region, where unstable power supply is posing a major threat to water production in Kumasi. Much for joining us this afternoon. Industry players have welcomed a directive by John Mahama ordering the ministers for finance and energy to immediately remove selected taxes and regulatory margins on petroleum products. The move is part of efforts to cushion consumers from rising fuel prices, driven largely by global tensions involving the United States, Israel and Iran. The decision was reached after an emergency cabinet meeting on Thursday. Minister for Government Communications Felix Kwachiofosu briefed the press after the meeting.
So the first directive that cabinet has issued is that the finance and energy ministers should take immediate steps to reduce the price of fuel through the removal of some taxes and margins on fuel, effective the next pricing window, which is about a week from today. And this is supposed to be done as soon as possible. Second, the transport minister has also been instructed to ensure the expedited deployment of newly acquired Metro Mass buses. You recall that over the weekend I announced the arrival of 100 Metro Mass buses. Another batch of 100 buses are expected in August, and then the last batch of 100 are expected in November to make up 300. But currently we have 100 available, and the transport minister has been instructed by cabinet to ensure expedited deployment of these buses in high traffic corridors to ensure that it alleviates any difficulties that may have arisen out of the recent fuel price increases. The transport minister has also been charged with ensuring that these Metro Mass buses, in addition to the existing ones, charge or maintain transport fares which are lower than what private sector operators charge. And this is to ensure that Ghanaians are cushioned, especially when we reach peak periods at the rush hour. In addition to this, the president took the opportunity at the cabinet meeting to remind all ministers and senior government officials and appointees to adhere strictly to his ban on fuel allowances and the allocation of fuel. And this applies to all ministers and senior government officials. Let me indicate that the reduction or removal of some taxes and margins, as I've indicated, which should lead to a reduction in fuel prices, effective the next pricing window, is supposed to last for an initial period of 4 weeks from the next pricing window. After the 4 weeks, the situation will be reviewed, and as and when it is deemed necessary, appropriate actions will be taken. So these are the major decisions taken at today's emergency.
And it had the government spokesperson Felix Kwachiofosu. Now, in the last pricing window, petrol price rose by about 15% to 13 cedis 30 pesos per litre, while diesel jumped nearly 19% to 17 cedis 10 pesos. These increases highlight how quickly global shocks are transmitted into Ghana's economy, especially as the country imports about 70% of its refined fuel. As government moves to intervene through tax and levy adjustments, attention is now turning to how fuel prices are structured locally and what real impact these cuts could have Wisdom Safo joins me in the studio to break down the taxes and levies in the petroleum price build-up for us. And Wisdom is part of our research team here at Media General. Wisdom, if you can first tell us exactly what makes up fuel price at the pumps in Ghana specifically.
So, Beatrice, if you want to look at how fuel is priced, you have to look at three major things, and that's the ex-refinery price, and that's the price at which these OMCs and BDCs, bulk distribution companies and oil marketing companies get their refined products from the refineries. Then we have the taxes and levies, and we have the OMCs and BDCs margin, right? That's the profits and the cost of transport and all that. So the ex-refinery price, that is the amount that they buy from the refineries. This constitutes about 60% of all the fuel pricing formula.
That's huge.
That's very huge, and it's largely influenced by exchange rate and global market prices. Currently, the war in Iran, we hit somewhere around 119, 113, but now we are around the $96 per barrel range for Brent crude. And the taxes and levies constitute about 24% of the pricing formula, and that is what I want to talk about. The 16%, that's the OMCs and BDCs margin. So if you look at the tax build-up, right, we have energy debt recovery levy, that's 49 pesos. We have road fund levy, that's 48 pesos. The energy fund levy, which is 1 peso. We have the 1 cedi levy, that's the infamous levy that was introduced by this current administration to raise some 5.7 billion Ghana cedis for energy generation. We have the price stabilization and recovery levy, which is 14 pesos, sanitation and pollution levy, which is 10 pesos, energy sector recovery levy, which is 20 pesos, and special petroleum tax, 46 pesos. And if you combine all these margins and all these taxes, you are looking at somewhere around 288 pesos. In other words, 2 cedis, 88 pesos in totality. So if we do some conjecturing, right, and we try to say, okay, what taxes do we think the government is going to abolish, and we just all suspend for the 4-week period? Let's say they are suspending the 1 cedi fuel levy, meaning at the current price floor, where we are selling petrol, the price floor that was set by the NPA, we are currently selling petrol at 13 cedis, 30 pesos, and diesel at 17 cedis, 10 pesos. So it means that if they abolish the fuel levy, right, or the 1 cedi fuel levy, we are going to buy petrol at 12 cedis, 30 pesos, and diesel at 16 cedis, 10 pesos. Let me go over that again. If they abolish that 1 cedi fuel levy that has been pushed by the Ghana Association of Industries, that's the AGI, right? That they should abolish the fuel levy. If they are able to abolish that 1 cedi fuel levy, we are going to buy petrol for 12 cedis, 30 pesos, and diesel for 16 cedis, 10 pesos. I don't know what other taxes the ministry will, together with the government, will try and remove, but pending the expectation that they are going to abolish the 1 cedi fuel levy, that's what we are going to buy fuel at. But there's one important thing that we also have to take into consideration, that this is loss of revenue and there's a trade-off somewhere, because anytime there's a subsidy or the government introduces an intervention to alleviate some hardship from what Ghanaians, the government has to pay for that. So that's what we call the lost revenue. You know, this 1 cedi fuel levy or all these levies constitutes a huge margin of all our tax revenue, right? So it was introduced, as I said, to generate about $5.7 billion billion Ghana cedis every year, and that vacuum needs to be filled. So it will just be transferred elsewhere, right? It's not being abolished totally. We have to find money from somewhere to make room for the energy generation, to cut the doomsday and supply to the IPPs as well, Beatrice.
Thank you very much, Wisdom Safo, for bringing us the latest. And of course, we'll bring you more analysis on this later, especially as we get to know the components going forward into the next pricing window. Let's bring in Benjamin Insia, Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy. Good afternoon. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
You're welcome.
Now, if you can tell us which specific taxes or levies perhaps the government most likely will be targeting for removal, first of all.
Okay, I think that's a bit of education. And now we have only 1 tax and 3 levies on the price build-up, and then 4 margins. With respect to the margins, nothing can be done with that because they serve specific functions in the industry. So no government can touch the margins. Any reduction, half and scrapping of any of the margins will likely cause chaos in the petroleum downstream because there are other transport costs or quality assurance cost on the price build-up. So, and also infrastructure support. So it will be difficult to touch the margins.
So
now the three levies, you have energy sector shortfall and the repayment levy. Yes, your analyst mentioned many of the levies, but we amended the act. Now we have 1141. So we have energy sector shortfall and the repayment levy under the energy sector levy act, which is 1 Ghana cedis 95 pesos per liter for petrol, and then 1 Ghana cedis 93 pesos per liter on diesel. We have 1 Ghana cedis 73 pesos per kilogram on LPG. That's the energy sector shortfall and the repayment levy. We also have road fund, 48 pesos per liter, and then energy fund levy 1 pesos or 1 peso per liter. So these are the three levies under ESLA. And we have a tax called special petroleum tax, which is 46 pesos per liter. If government considers the tax 46 pesos, I think it should be quite insignificant looking at how prices are surging. But government may also consider it because the price of diesel is plunging on the international market, and the expectation is that price of diesel may even decline at the pump by 16th of this month. So government can decide that because price of diesel is plunging, and therefore we can take 46 pesos of the build-up and we will be fine. Because if you look at the history of the act, it was meant for balancing or reducing our fiscal deficit within our macroeconomic policy or budget framework. If you take the road fund, I don't think government will be able to take or scrap it entirely. Maybe government can have it, but it also means that revenues meant for the road sector, for maintenance or road infrastructure support, may find it difficult in getting revenue to settle these debts and other areas, or maybe support revamping of some feeder roads or second-class roads in Ghana. So maybe government may have it or may consider keeping it. The larger levy in the room, because energy fund levy 1 peso is significant, government can't do anything about it. The larger in the room is the energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy, as I mentioned earlier, which is 195 or 1 Ghana 95 pesos on petrol and 1 Ghana 93 on diesel. Government may decide to have it or take one off the build-up, or take 95 pesos per liter off the build-up, and then prices will stabilize. But I think the major challenge to some of these suspension, removal, or whatever decision government is likely going to take in the coming days has to do with the law, because these are fiscal policies passed by law on the build-up. And if you want to even touch them, it means that it must go through a parliamentary process before you can do that. So there must be some form of amendment. So I don't know how government will be able to do away with amending these taxes in the short term while I know Parliament is on recess, and how they'll be able to implement it, because we all observe what happened when government suspended a road toll without going through the parliamentary process. So that's a big difficulty with respect to implementation of these particular measures. The last measure also is that the time period is too short for the industry to implement such a policy. The industry operates in such a way that when time 4 days or 5 days to new windows, some of these OMCs, maybe Star Oil, Akara Energy, Goil, others, Zen Petroleum, they have what you call forward contract.
Just for the sake of time, forgive me, Mr. Nsia, if you can really wrap up for us and also tell us what you believe this impact would be. The impact this would have on government revenue, briefly, please.
In terms of government revenue, I think that there may not be much impact because government is also making a windfall from the upstream, depending on how much they take of the build-up, because as we speak, based on government simulation, if government, the crude price exceeds 100 or even average $100 per barrel, government is expecting an inflow of 7.2 billion Ghana cedis. So government can balance that 7.2 billion Ghana cedis by making sure that they scrap some taxes or suspend some taxes that equates the 7.2 billion that government is going to get as a result of the price of crude being $100 per barrel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin Insia, Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. Let's also bring in Samuel Amwa, Deputy Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. All right, we'll have to bring him on quite soon. But ahead of that, unstable power supply is emerging as a major threat to water production in Kumasi, worsening an already critical situation caused by heavily silted dams. Management of the Ghana Water Company Limited has been assessing the situation at some key water treatment facilities in the Ashanti region. My colleague Ibrahim Abubakar has the rest of the story.
The Barikesi water treatment plant, designed to operate 24 hours a day, is now running far below capacity due to frequent power fluctuations. This has significantly reduced water production, leaving some residents in Kumasi without reliable supply. Regional Chief Manager for the production at Ghana Water Limited, Dr. Ansin Mensah Akwete, says the impact on operations is severe.
Sometimes we are able to run about 14 hours, 16 hours. A plant that is designed for 24 hours, we are losing a percent, about 84% out of our operations. And that alone is seriously impacting our production volumes. Currently, because of that, our production is dropped by about 30%.
During a working visit by the management of the company, it was disclosed that last month alone, the company recorded a shortfall in water output.
As a result of fluctuation in power and the shallow nature of the dam, last month we couldn't meet our target. We fell short by almost 959 cubic meters of water. And that is huge. And that is denying some people the opportunity to have water.
Compounding the power challenges is the deteriorating state of the main water sources, the Barikesi and Wawabe dams. At Barikesi, heavy encroachment and environmental degradation have reduced the dam's capacity, with about 40% of the reservoir silted.
The need for us to dredge the Barikesi as immediate as possible to increase the storage capacity of our plants. If not, in the next 2-3 years, if there's a serious climate change of dryness or drought, it's possible the whole Kumasi will be out of water.
The situation at Owabe is even more alarming, with siltation levels estimated at 75%, leaving only a small volume of usable water.
There is revenue item to the dredging. And based on that, we have requested for commitment authorization from the Minister of Finance. It is my hope that it will be approved on time so that we can kickstart the dredging. It is very critical that we work towards to resolving the power challenge and getting the dredging done.
Authorities are urging swift intervention, warning that without immediate action, Kumasi could face a full-scale water crisis in the near future. Management of the Ghana Water Limited says it will continue to monitor key facilities across the country as part of efforts to ensure reliable water supply to the growing urban population.
Ibrahim Abubakar filed that report from the Ashanti region for us, and he joins us live now on the phone. Ibrahim, kindly tell us how long this problem has persisted and really what assurances residents are getting from officials.
Beatrice, the authorities of Ghana Water Management Limited says it's been on for more than 6 months, and they are trying to resolve it. They have informed management of the Electricity Company of Ghana to also give them a different transformer, different power plant, so that they would be assured of stable power to be able to produce the water that Kumasi needs. Currently, they are doing, the capacity is around 48 million gallons per day, but they are managing to do 30 million, even sometimes way below 30 million. Which informs the situation in Kumasi, because you come here and water rationing is becoming a norm in most of the communities. Today you get water, the next day you will not get water. So people are complaining, and they say they are doing everything possible to ensure that they get that stable power supply to be able to produce the water. But beyond that, the issue of silting is also a challenge that they have been battling with for years now. That didn't start a month or 6 months ago. That started years ago because of the encroachment. And like I rightly mentioned, the report for Barekesi, which produces water for Kumasi, the siltation level is around 30-40%, or Wabi is even worse, 75%. So the depth of the dam for Barekesi, for instance, it's 18 meters, but currently they are getting water for only between 8 to 9 feet, which means that the amount of siltation is quite huge, and they are looking at the finance ministry to release funds for them to be able to start with the dredging process so that the dam will be able to store more water, and that will translate in consumers getting water in their various homes.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Abubakar. He's Ashanti regional correspondent. Now, search continues for the remaining passengers after a boat carrying 16 people capsized on the Volta Lake on Wednesday, the 8th of April. 9 bodies have since been retrieved and buried. The victims were reportedly traveling from Prang in the Bono East region to the central Gonja district of the Savannah region. Let's take a listen to the boat driver who spoke with my colleague Christopher Amakon earlier.
Yellow day where the throw cross. Nah, yeba no. Yabe shine from a crowd of fancy. From Anum, I say from Ano a high pa. Yes, we try, yes, and yes, and from Ano higher now. A bed try say a bed cross. Nah, ya could see a bunch of baby. By your try a young to me. The senior Omutu Chronoso, Omu of Landful. The way Omutu Chronoso now, from the first one bought by IFA Chronos. There was a anchor, Omuste, now me as a driver, and me taking charge, and me home time. For a month now, Niasa Akuman, no, sorry, we and not done yet.
Okay, so Omu Yenipa sign and a foul.
Me and I'm late down
16. Okay, you see, Mutumi Ebimu, Anna,
and the way by son, the try and late no funny and new gallery when Mamma won't get by late no funny and new gallery. If you try a best, a day, if you had me galley a year near the now of Madame Gallo by on to me, and ye and so gallon name from Anasa Bonafri Gallo. Nipa for the Yatinia try you Musadia Mata, Motinia so, tis our phone and your mere save. By entire yet to make chili or be near the Nakomata Gallon on so on to me, Sinister. If yes, so ye try Tama, ye benyam what ya fair bontino. Na ya brebe now so I in Tissania, yes, will be a good for my and number.
And you had the boat commander or boat driver there who was the one in charge of the boats that capsized, which carried about 16 people. We do understand that 9 bodies have already been retrieved as the search continues. But the police commander for the area has also been speaking to us. Let's listen to him.
That's more like that. When you got there, they have already buried 9 people. On board the 16, so they will retrieve 9 of them and they buried them earlier before you got there. Yeah. So far.
So, is there a search party still?
They are still searching for the rest of the people. Unfortunately, it's only one person. Her husband lost 3 wives and a mother. I with the children, 5 children, 5 boys and 2 girls. And the wife, the 3 wives, and so sad.
Yes, Commander, let's talk about the enforcement of the wearing of life jackets. Yes. What do you have to say about that?
Luckily enough, I went with national coordinator to advise them and mobilize them in the community. Especially those who are using the boots. We have a meeting, and that will be next week, Tuesday. After that, we have to engage them seriously. and I'm going to monitor the system. It will not occur. That will be the last thing.
And you heard Christopher Amoakon having that conversation with the police commander of the area. Now, the Greater Accra Regional Fisheries Commission Director Matilda Ajakabe has allayed fears over possible contamination of fish within the Tema enclave. It follows reported mass mortality of fish near the Tema shipyard. She spoke with Joseph Armstrong.
Relaying this information to our viewers and listeners that fish in Tema is safe to eat. When the situation of the fish kill happened, all the necessary regulatory body worked swiftly, and there has been safe disposal of the carcasses. So the situation has been contained. But perhaps with that, we still have to, our investigation is still ongoing. So if the public has any information to what might have also caused the situation, our regional office is located inside the fishing harbour. They should kindly relay such information for us so that we can prevent future occurrences. But for now, I can't promise you to say that the fish are safe for you to eat.
And you heard there Matilda Ajakobe. She's the director of fisheries at the Accra Regional Fisheries Commission. Now, concerns are growing over the use of artificial intelligence at Ghana's ports, with traders and freight forwarders citing inflated valuations and a lack of transparency. While government says the system is meant to curb revenue leakages and improve efficiency, stakeholders argue that its rollout has been rushed and costly. There's more in the following report.
The government in January announced its intention to deploy the Publican Trade Solution, an AI system from February 1 this year to improve and facilitate import clearance at the country's entry ports, starting with the Tema port. The Publican Trade Solution is meant to assist customs officers determine the real value of imported goods declared in the customs system. But speaking on TV3's agenda, representatives of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders and the Ghana Union of Traders Association questioned the data driving the AI system. They warned of mounting financial pressure on importers with goods stuck at the port and demurrage costs rising.
It shouldn't have come as a complete thing that should be rolled out. It would have gone in line with the manual system so that we'll see, oh, this one should go for manual. If, for example, Ghana imports a lot of used items, and how can AI calculate the extent of usage of that used item and give us a value? You see, so the challenge we had is that because we were not engaged enough, okay, to share certain information with them. That is why this thing has just come up, and we are all facing the rigors of the work.
There's nowhere in the world that AI has been used to do valuation. There's nowhere. That's why I'm saying, what is AI seeking to achieve? Is it classification or valuation, under invoicing, over invoicing, or exact harmonized code? Or exact goods that in the container? And if customs are not convinced, they give it red light, everything is pulled down for fiscal examination to be done.
President Mahama, speaking at the Kuru Business Forum, acknowledged the concerns and directed the finance minister to increase police sessions to address disputes.
I've heard a few complaints about unfair imposition in terms of what duties and levies have to be paid. And so the ministry has an appeal system. So far, it is held 2 days in a week. I have advised that they increase the number of days. And so if you have your legitimate invoice and you think that the duties and levies that have been imposed are higher than you actually should pay, I'm sure if they are lower, you even decide to appeal, you'll be happy and go away. But if they are higher, then you normally take it to the appeal. They go through the process and they vet your invoice.
President John Mahama ending that news desk report. And that's it for the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Good afternoon.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, technical advisor at the Finance Ministry assures of transparency as government secures $434.55 billion in oil revenue for Accra-Kumasi Expressway.
For fun and easy.
Also coming up, energy sector analyst says revenue concerns drive push to slash fuel levies amid Middle East crisis. I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories coming up shortly. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for your time. Straight into our stories now. The government of Ghana has earmarked and transferred approximately $434.55 billion in oil revenue to support the development of the Accra-Kumasi Expressway. The funds drawn from the annual budget funding amount have been moved into a special purpose vehicle under the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. Speaking to the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Theo Echampong, confirmed that while the amount is secured at the Bank of Ghana, it remains undisbursed pending the conclusion of vital preparatory work.
The monies that have been put aside for it, those monies are still sitting at the central bank. They've not been disbursed as yet. The monies that have been put aside for it, those monies are still sitting at the central bank. They've not been disbursed as yet until we complete the technical work that needs to be done, and then you can leverage that. But the point for me there is that long gone are the days where we were sharing the oil monies, the ABFA related projects like peanuts. Everybody gets something little and there's nothing to show for it. We've been complaining about turning out. I think this is the right way to go. You put the money in some of your big ticket infrastructure projects, but make sure that they are commercially viable. So all the guardrails that you need to put around, if you need to put an escrow account in place, if you need to put the governance who sits on the board, just to make sure that you're treating it like a proper investment. And that is sort of the approach I can mention we are taking.
That was technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Theo Echampong. Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, SEMSE, Benjamin Nsia, has suggested that government's move to review the fuel price build-up is primarily driven by mounting economic concerns. Government on Thursday, April 9, delegated authority to the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition and the Ministry of Finance to determine which specific taxes or levies within the petroleum price structure should be adjusted in the coming days to cushion the public without crippling the national budget. According to Mr. Nsia, this decision likely stems from three critical scenarios with a heavy emphasis on balancing fiscal stability against the need to provide immediate relief to consumers.
First scenario is that there was a bit of difficulty with respect to agreeing on tax cuts in the petroleum downstream. I think there are some cabinet ministers who think that tax should not be cut and prices should be allowed to operate as they are. The second scenario is that there could be lack of data at the cabinet level with respect to the debt situation or the debt-owed IPPs against the performance of the various levies on the price build-up. So further information would be needed to ensure that appropriate interventions are taken in the downstream. The last scenario could also arise from the fact that maybe government wants to monitor the market in the coming days and ensure that tax cuts are appropriately done to maintain price stability in the petroleum downstream. There could be a situation where taking off maybe one Ghana cedi from the build-up could not yield any impact because price on the international market may escalate further. So these are the reasons why I think that the decision pronounced by Cabinet with respect to delegatory power to these ministries has arisen.
That was the Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, SEMSE, Benjamin Insia. Now, the government of Ghana is returning to the domestic market today with an ambitious target to raise 7.57 billion cedis through its weekly treasury bill auction. This upcoming auction is being closely watched by market analysts as it follows a recent period of 3 consecutive undersubscriptions. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more.
The sudden shortfall in bids has broken an impressive streak of 11 straight weeks of oversubscription recorded earlier this year, signaling a potential shift in investor sentiment or a tightening of market liquidity. The Bank of Ghana will conduct the auction for government across the standard 3 tenors of 91-day, 182-day, and 364-day bills. The 7.57 billion cedis target is considered aggressive, especially as government seeks to cover maturing debts and finance its fiscal requirements amid a cooling demand for short-term paper. Earlier in the year, declining inflation, which reached 5.4% by late 2025, had fueled a robust easing cycle, encouraging investors to lock in yields. However, the recent undersubscriptions suggest that government may need to offer more competitive rates to attract the necessary capital. The outcome of the auction will serve as a litmus test for the domestic market's appetite for sovereign debt. If government fails to meet its 7.57 billion cedis target again, it may face increased pressure to raise interest rates or explore alternative funding avenues to bridge the financing gap. Institutional investors, particularly domestic banks, remain the primary participants in this segment. Their bidding behavior will reveal whether the recent dip in demand was a temporary market correction or the beginning of a more cautious trend in Ghana's fixed income landscape.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Meanwhile, the Ghana Stock Exchange retreated during the April 9, 2026 session as a wave of profit-taking dampened the market's recent momentum, despite a slight increase in overall capital market capitalization to 246.18 billion cedis. Both benchmark indices closed in the red amid thinning trading volumes. This report has the details.
The GSE Composite Index shed 19.59 points to finish at 13,106.52, while the Financial Stocks Index dropped to 7,902.15. This slight pullback follows a highly resilient first quarter, with the GSE Composite Index still maintaining an impressive year-to-date return of 49.44%. Market activity saw a notable slowdown, with the total value traded falling to 18.12 million cedis. GCB Bank dominated the day's turnover, while MTN Ghana led in volume as investors prepared for the telecom giant's final dividend payment of 40 pesos per share scheduled for April 10. Price movements were a mixed bag of selective buying and aggressive sell-offs. SIC Insurance and Fan Milk recorded gains, but these were overshadowed by steep losses in Access Bank Ghana, which fell 4.62 pesos, and declines in other heavyweights like EcoBank and MTN Ghana. While the long-term outlook for 2026 remains bullish, the latest session signals a period of emerging caution as investors lock in gains from the year's early rally.
And that's how we wrap up today's edition of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, please visit our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please stay safe.